So should we talk about Zack Polanski and the Green Party? This week, the Green Party leader made a pretty astonishing statement. He said that we need to have a conversation um, as to whether Jewish people, when they feel unsafe, is that merely a matter of perception or is it a reality? He said this in a week after three attempted arson attacks on Jewish institutions in London alone. He himself, when asking whether this was a real problem, even referenced the attack on the Hadzola ambulances in North London. So he clearly knows that there are some violent anti-Semitic attacks going on. But Tom, is this just a perception? Is it being ginned up to? Is it being weaponized against the left and the likes of Polansky, who just care deeply about Gaza?
No, of course it isn't. And the reason that he's choosing to speak in this way is because there's a lot of people in the Green Party now who think precisely that, who think that the anti-Semitism horror show is got up, that it's something which is being used by sinister Zionists to gain sympathy or to make themselves look like the victims. And that's not just speculation. We know this from the reporting in recent weeks, which has shown an awful lot of candidates in the upcoming local elections for the Greens who have been saying things even more extreme than that. They've had to again answer for the fact that there's been a string of candidates, some of them which in the northeast, who alongside kind of sharing images of a swastika underneath an Israeli flag have talked about the again the ambulances attack potentially being a false flag is one of the quotes that is buzzing around there. People saying horrendous things after October the 7th, talking basically about it in the language of resistance and telling people not to believe the media as to what took place. And then a very remarkably relaxed response, I think it's fair to say, from the Green Party, which is to restate their opposition to anti-Semitism, but also making clear that people should be able to criticise the state of Israel, pointing out that some of those posts have been deleted, as if that's an answer to what has taken place. Many of these, from what I can tell, and it's a little bit hard to ascertain this, many of these candidates that I've spoken about haven't even been suspended yet or disassociated. Even under Corbyn's Labour, there was pretty swift action a lot of the time. It might have happened from another wing of the Labour Party. It might have been something that made some of the people around Jeremy Corbyn a little bit nervous, but it did take place. This is something entirely different. What has become clear is that the Green Party is the sort of successor to Corbyn's Labour in terms of kind of flinging open the door to these kinds of people. And what you're getting from the leadership is not, well, there's a few bad apples necessarily. It is to kind of concede to a degree to what it is that they're saying. And in a time when Kemi Badenoch alluded to this point this week, it would be to talk about the perception of anti-Semitism versus the reality. I mean, he hedges that by saying, of course, both are a problem and both should be dealt with, etc., etc. But nevertheless, we got what he was saying there. If we were talking about a series of black churches which had just been firebombed, to say, well, at this point, it's probably, you probably should put it in perspective, shouldn't you? You would rightly be hauled over the coals for saying that. So again, it points to the double standard where anti-Semitism exists on the left and the extent to which the Green Party, to put it in as legally tight a way as I possibly can, has an alarmingly high tolerance for these kinds of attitudes within their ranks, even if they claim to disavow them personally. And this is something that they can't deny at this point. And these damning comments this week, I think, illustrate that game is being played on some of them.
Yeah, I mean, to give some examples, there was one candidate who claimed that Zionists killed 220 million Christians, and that Epstein Island is a symbol of the headquarters of the Zionists who are trying to control the world. Another said that it takes a serious effort not to be anti-Semitic. Um, Another said that England has a government overrepresented with Zionist Jews, and on and on and on. One called the Hadzola ambulances attack not a revenge rather than a terror attack. I mean, James, you expect these kinds of attitudes in the National Front or the BNP or something, yet it's cropping up in a supposedly progressive party, a party that says that it stands for hope. I mean, what the hell is going on?
Well, you see, I don't. This guy, remember, is for a start. Always remember, he was an actor. Number one. I mean, forget about the hypnotizing breasts. He's an actor first and foremost. He's a useful. He's being used. It's extremely conveniently. He's being used by this Red-Green Alliance, who will end up eating him last, or second to last. But I think he's an extremely dangerous man. I think he's an extremely naive man. In fact, I think the lot of them just ooze hatred, a really nasty party. And I always think that we always talk about extremes. That the far left, which in my eyes, they certainly are the far left, are no better than the far right. To me, they're no different at all. It sort of completes a circle. It's a great example is these people who call themselves Antifa, anti-fascist. Well, I've never seen anything more fascist in my life whenever you see these people get together. So I think the Green Party is where all cranks have gone. It's got nothing to do with, the environment anymore. Absolutely nothing to do with it. And I think I mean, a lot of people make comparisons with the useful leftists who urged in the Iranian Revolution. And then, of course, what happened to all of them? They were the first to, to be gone. So I think his statements about that on that particular issue, saying, "Well, it's perceived," or if he made that comment about anyone else, it would have been uproar. But they're all very sort of, yes, no, he can say it because, and that's a very dangerous position to be in. Number one, it was surrounded today. You just saw this horrific video of this visibly Jewish man. I assume he was wearing the kippah or something, and this man literally comes to attack him on a bicycle, verbally abusing him, and you sort of have to think, how many times do you have to see this a day? We all watch it. Nobody opens a newspaper and sees this. We all look at it online and we see it happening. So I think he is possibly, him and his party, are possibly, we can laugh at them, ha 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 ha, and they're so stupid, but it's also, I think they're the scariest around.
And Tom, I mean, the Greens have conducted a policy review, or they've started a policy review as an almost acknowledgement that many of their policies are absolutely crackers. It's almost as if the anti-Semitism is only one aspect of the extremism of this party. I mean, you look at what they're saying on migration. It's not just open borders, but that everyone should be allowed to claim a universal basic income as soon as they arrive. There should never be any deportations under any circumstances. And James, you mentioned the environment. I mean, they still have environmental policies that would essentially lead to the abolition of electricity. Certainly, you wouldn't be able to. You shouldn't expect to be able to get be able to plug things in and have them work under a green policy. What do you make of that aspect of things? I mean, there's some scrutiny coming onto their policies, but not nearly enough, it feels.
No, and far too late, I think. I mean, Zack Polanski himself is an incredibly insubstantial figure politically. He does, to James's point, kind of give off the vibe of essentially an overgrown theatre kid who is primarily interested in the attention rather than anything else. And that's kind of writ large in a lot of the policy making. I mean, I'm always sort of loath to just accuse people that you might disagree with of just being a bit dim. But if you're going around saying things like we aspire to a world with no borders, if you're going around saying that you are ideologically opposed to the very notion of economic growth, the great engine of living standards and progress throughout history, we don't need it for some reason, and let alone all of the pretty out there policies they have on various different social issues, it's hard to conclude anything other than these people have just become like prisoners of virtue signaling. It sounds good, it sounds radical, it sounds important, and therefore it doesn't matter if any of it adds up. And it is funny because aside from anything else, the sort of contemporary left does define itself more than any other issue on the issue of racism, in opposition to racism. It's the sort of thing that even kind of different factions of it can all agree that's the sort of moral centre of this supposed movement. And yet, we can point it out to we're blue in the face, but maybe we have to. In the context of what's going on right now, and in the context of what's been going on with the British Jewish community from well before October the 7th, even before 2023, Jews in this country were the victims of about a quarter of all religiously motivated hate crimes. They're 0.5% of the population. It's only Jewish school students who, in every school up and down the country have to go through airport-style security in order just to go about their business because of the ambient threat which exists to them, school children. No other community has to experience that. The fact that the left has even nothing to say about it, just sort of stares at its shoelaces, or in the case of many of these people now washing up in the Green Party, are dismissing it, downplaying it, dare I say, even excusing it in some instances, shows that just they have nothing left. And particularly also the anti-fascism aspect. People who've been going around calling everyone to the right of Yvette Cooper a fascist for the longest time, and yet they see a video of 3 men dressed all in black firebombing Jewish ambulances, and they've got nothing to say about it. Oh, maybe it was Jews, maybe it was an inside job. I think it tells you everything you need to know about where this movement has gone. It's kind of lobotomized itself on so many different of the other policy areas that we've touched upon. But even its kind of core moral claim just lays in tatters now. They don't realise it, obviously, but I'm hoping with more scrutiny with these lectures coming up, they are going to be exposed. And that's going to lead to a lot of people who might be tempted to vote Green, either because they want a kind of progressive alternative to the Labour Party or because they just want to roll the dice on something different, or they're a young person frustrated they can't get on the housing ladder or whatever, that this is not the movement that you maybe think it is. Because I think we're only really at the beginning of the public really getting the full picture about what this party is now.
And can I just add on to the end of that about him? I posted recently a picture of Polansky and the child catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, because I'd seen him the night before on stage talking about the legalization of drugs and things, which to me is a sort of free sweeties, all for free. And young people, of course, think, great, man, you know, I can smoke weed whenever I want and want to do this, that, and the other. I mean, have either of you ever been to Vancouver? One of the most frightening cities you'll ever go to. There's a main street which is like your shopping drag, and the police keep all the drug addicts in one area and they keep moving them around. And if you take a wrong turn, you literally are on sort of zombie streets. It's one of the most frightening cities because the smell of weed is in the air everywhere you go. But there's an air of menace to it that we still haven't got to yet in London. I mean, for all its faults, there's not that air of menace. But you'd have thought somewhere like Vancouver, well, actually, it doesn't come as a surprise anymore, but once upon a time, you would have thought Vancouver was quite sort of... And so I think he's especially dangerous because he does appeal to the youth who think it's all cool and wow, freedom, and it reminds me of the sort of hippie movement back then, but on Spahn Ranch, when it all suddenly goes wrong and Manson sends out the girls, and it goes from joy and love to horror and hell in an instant, which is where I think they're inevitably going to end up.
In the bizarre Zack Polanski hellscape, they will have legal horse, but horse racing will be illegal, and they want to ban cigarettes as well, because that's big tobacco. Whereas drugs are made by, I guess, I don't know, anarchist collectives, people of color in Colombia.